Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who all in this truth from who to rule well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Until you, I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit, and I'm entitled this one, A Kingdom Divided Cannot Stand. Because we see what's going on with America, which is Babylon the Great in the scriptures, how it's divided amongst the beast system, which is NATO and the EU. Now all these different allies of America are starting to look at it sideways because they see how it just ran into Venezuela and just took over. So now all these countries are thinking, like, damn, if that can happen in Venezuela, then what's going to stop them from coming here and then take over as well? And ultimately, that's the pride of Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. He don't care because he has that mindset that he's never going to be brought down. He could just do whatever he want, go around the earth, destroy, murder all these different people, steal their resources, and nobody's going to care. But ultimately, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is stirring up the minds of these different leaders of these countries. Putin and Chinese president, the president of Iran, because ultimately the end of Esau, Edom's kingdom is going to be the destruction of America that is going to be caused by thermonuclear missiles. That's going to be the end of Babylon the Great, which is America, mystery Babylon in the scriptures. But yet, these Edomites are so proud that they think that, they're never going to be brought down. But that's Yahweh Bashem Yahushai fattening their heart, hardening their heart, so they could get puffed up more and more. So, like that saying, the bigger you are, the harder you fall. And that the fall is going to be extremely hard because, like it says in Isaiah chapter 14, all these different nations are going to look at Esau like, damn, this was the one that was ruling. This is the basis of all men that had everybody under subjection, scared of him. You couldn't say nothing against him, or he put you to death. But that's the end that Esau Edom has coming, because ultimately he's divided. And if a so-called team is divided, a kingdom is divided, then it's going to collapse, just like the kingdom of Jake, the kingdom of Israel, which ultimately, was split, into the southern kingdom and northern kingdom, the kingdom of Judah, then the kingdom of Israel. And then what happened after that? Just Jake went into captivity after captivity. But Esau, Edom is not going to receive no mercy, because ultimately Yahweh Bashem Yahushai allowed this devil to rule, but it's just about up. This is Matthew chapter 12 and verse 25. And Yahushai knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against himself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And that's what's happening. You got America making enemies out of all these different countries. They're starting to look at its side. They were already looking at it like damn, y'all need to chill. But now with the events that took place, a couple of days ago, Venezuela, now all these countries are like, man, hell no. Eventually they're going to take over, Greenland and all these different Latin countries. So it's to the point where all these different nations are fed up, with Babylon, the Great America. They're fed up with Israel, and what's happening is just now that's stirring up the spirit here in Babylon, the Great America, inside, these Americans, these Edomites, and even Jake, Republican versus Democrat, left versus right. And that's going to lead to civil war. That's going to be lead to all hell breaking loose. Verse 26, and if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. So how shall then his kingdom stand? And it's not going to stand, because Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is ultimately the one that's putting it upon the spirit, upon the minds of these kings, like it says in Proverbs, The king's heart is in the hands of the Lord. That's ultimately the one that's behind it, is Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, because the time of this devil ruling up on the planet Earth is just about up. This is Matthew 24 and verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet, and that's what's happening. Wars and rumors of wars. You got Russia and Ukraine. You got Iran versus Israel, China and Taiwan. You got Babylon the Great America making war with all these different Latin countries, Venezuela, and then you said it's Colombia's next, and then Mexico. Esau's out here bugging the hell out, crashing out, because he knows that his kingdom's about up, like it says in Revelation chapter 12 and verse 12. He's about to come down. He's coming down with that great wrath on everybody, because he's not just going to give it up. He's not going to give up the kingdom like, here's the keys to the kingdom. You can have it. I'm going to ride into the sunset. No, because Edom knows that this is his final time to rule. Really, this is the final time of, before he gets put into subjection, slavery, chains, and then being done away with as a nation. And then we see all these things taking place upon the planet Earth, letting you know that we're in the last days of the last days, and people feel it, but they don't want to say nothing, faking a funk, still going to work, rushing to get to work, stuck in traffic. Like it says, famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. That's all taking place around the planet Earth, because Yahweh Bashmiel Shai is showing the signs to these people, letting them know that this kingdom's just about up, but ultimately they're going to remain asleep. Only the elect of the nation of Israel, of Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, that consists of the 144,000, which is all men, all prophets, and that large multitude, the helps, the believers, the friends, families of the prophets. But other than that, the rest of the world is asleep. They see all this taking place. They see wars and rumors of wars and earthquakes in diverse places, blood moons, lunar eclipses, signs in the heavens, so-called UFOs, which are the chariots of Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, and they just brush it off like it's no big deal. Verse 8, Matthew 24 and verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. So we're at the beginning of sorrows, and it's only going to ramp up more and more. It's not going to decrease. It's going to calm down and it's going to die down, and then boom, another 50, 100 years before. No, Yahweh Bashmiel Shai is stirring up the mind of all these Babylonians, of all these Americans, all these Edomites, because ultimately what's going to happen is a civil war, race war. Here in America, Babylon the Great, and really throughout the four corners of the earth, is going to be all hell breaking loose. This is Job chapter 14 and verse 5. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. And Yahweh Bashmiel Shai set up the days that this devil, Esau, Edom, was going to be allowed to rule upon the planet Earth. It says his days are determined. So they were already set up, okay? This is the cutoff line. After that, you're done. You're going to be done ruling up on the planet Earth. You're going to be brought down. America's going to go to war with all these different countries, because what Babylon the Great America is trying to do is prolong his kingdom, trying to prolong America. And 2026, July the 4th, is America's 250th year birthday, which that's the that's the cutoff. That's the average age of an empire, and then boom, it collapses, it crumbles. And America's already been crumbling since the 60s. Right after that that was a peak. After World War II, the 50s, early 60s, and then boom, they went to war with Vietnam, lost. They went to war with Korea, lost. They went to war with, in the Middle East, they lost. So Babylon the Great America is still trying to hold on to those glory days, the 1940s, the early 1900s, when they won those world wars. But what they don't understand is that, or probably they do, they know that all these different countries have nuclear missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles that could just utterly destroy the whole planet Earth. But these devils are so proud that, they think that it's never going to be brought down. But that's why Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is going to stir up the minds of these kings, these presidents, these prime ministers. Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is going to put it up on the spirit of Putin, the Chinese president, the president of Iran, to click that red button. At that time, it's wraps. The America, Babylon the Great is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear missiles. The land of Israel, where the tiny hats, the imposters are at, because that land has to be cleansed. But America, Babylon the Great, is to never be inhabited ever again. This place is going to be utterly destroyed, and it's going to be wraps. Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is never going to allow any human to dwell here in the land. America is never going to be inhabited ever again, because this is going to be the biggest desert up on the planet Earth. The only thing that's going to live here is going to be fowls of the air, desert creatures. But other than that, it's going to be set up as a memorial for the world to know this is what happens when you ruin complete wickedness. This is what happens when you break your covenants. You stab your allies in the back. Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is going to make an example out of America, Babylon the Great. This is Isaiah 47 verse 1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin, daughter of Babylon. And who's the virgin, daughter of Babylon? America, Babylon the Great. Because America has never really known, a full scale war. Yeah, you had the Civil War, but not to the point where, it's just going to be all hell breaking loose. Like over there, in the World War II era, Germany, how, it was nice buildings, and boom, a couple months later, it was just all destroyed. That's how it's going to be in America, Babylon the Great, before that great destruction takes place. It says, sit on the ground, there is no throne. So America is being the throne, because it's the hammer of the earth. But, you have all these different nations, China, Russia, they talking about they calling next. Okay, we're going to take America down, and then we got next. No, the ones that got next on the throne is going to rule upon the earth. It's going to be the kingdom of heaven established upon the planet Earth by Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, where the governing body is going to be the elect, the 1/3, the 144,000, and the large multitude. No, but before that happens, Edom's not going to give it up. It says, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. So, America, Babylon the Great, back then, everybody looked at it, with astonishment. They're like, damn, we got to move to America. We got to move to Babylon the Great. I heard the streets are paved of gold, and, you go over there and you get rich, just working one job. And now it's to the point where these Americans, these Babylonians, they're fed up, with this place. Talking about, well, what the hell are we working for? We're just going to work in this vein, and they're right, but this system, this kingdom, it was set up by design to collapse. And that's what's happening. When we're at the end of Babylon the Great, America, and it's only going to ramp up more and more. But that's pretty much the point. I pray this was edifying to the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Bashim Yahweh Shai, Bashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from and do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom.